of the Woodstock Festival music, that it couldn't be held here, and they held it 50 miles from here, the syndrome of Woodstock has extended all over the nation, and people come here by the hundreds, thinking that this is the place where the music festival took place. And what they see, nothing. They see a village green, very ordinary, some maple trees and pines and all those things, and merchants that they are opposite to these long whiskery kids that they come around, and these girls without brassiere that look around and walk around with long pants, short pants, no pants, and everybody's disappointed. And then they get so confused, they get so depressed that they take, well, I don't know what they do take. I really don't. But 2 years ago, there was just incredible here, the amount of syphilis and gonorrhea that existed in this town, in Woodstock, and that's not famous for anything like that, but it did. Crabs, syphilis and gonorrhea, plus a little bit of marijuana, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. That was the prevalent thing.
What is Woodstock to you?
Well, you know, I live in the woods, and still I accept this subculture. I accept it. But I don't accept, what I don't accept is the disappointment that they get. Because in the first place, they are not prepared mentally to accept that this is a place where people come to work. And we have been living here for years to work. And this subculture is already all mistaken, you know. And they go, well, I sympathize with them. But they are looking for a nirvana that don't exist. And it's very difficult to find.
What does your Woodstock contain?
What? Physically?
And everything.
Spiritually?
Spiritually.
Weather-wise? Well, it has the calm. Always, since I arrived here for the first time in 1925, I found a calmness very similar to the mountains near Madrid. And that's what attracted me very much. Of course, the mountains near Madrid, they are much more rugged than here. But anyhow, 100 miles from New York, and in a trip that I made by boat, that was my first trip to Woodstock, was in the day line boat leaving 42nd Street Pier and stopping. First stop was in Poughkeepsie. Second stop was Kingston, and then he went to Albany. No, from Kingston he went across the river to Rhinebeck, and then from Rhinebeck to Albany. Well, in Kingston we took a taxi, and the taxi brought us to this peaceful, bucolic town with the village green, that is, you know, and was just exactly like this today.
Who brought you to Woodstock? Who was the
Gottlieb. And he was living in the Maverick. He had a house there, a little shack. And it was enchanting, absolutely enchanting. And then I keep on coming weekends. And then for a period of time, I travel, and I was in Europe, I was in the Middle West, and all that. But then I moved back again to the East, to New York. And I kept on coming to Woodstock in the summer. I used to go to Provincetown, Wellfleet, but East Hampton, but always it was Woodstock, the thing that attracted me. Well, first time I rented a house, it was a house in the property of Tom Pinning. I don't know if you know who is Tom Pinning? He's an artist
No, I didn't know.
and a sculptor. There's a big, beautiful place in Highwood. And this house was all hidden in the woods. Very nice. But I rented the house and I was just ready to spend the summer. Well, one night I had dinner with Fletcher Martin and his wife. And I arrived to this paradise in the woods that I rented. That was the first house that I rented in Woodstock. I was working there, I had my drawings and paper and canvas and everything. I was going to spend a wonderful summer working there, away from New York City where I had my studio and everything. Well, that night after that dinner with Fletcher, I arrived in the house, opened the door, and I had left one light on. And brother, I look around the light, and there were just hundreds of bees buzzing around the light. And then the floor, there were a number of 200 bees dead. I said, what I have done here? Huh? I start to look at all the windows, All the windows, they had a screen. It's possible where these bees come from. And the bees, I know that they were honeybees because they looked like that. There were no wasps or anything like that, just honeybees. And so I looked at different rooms. There were 2 or 3 rooms, one 2 bedroom. All the windows, they were closed, and the screen door closed and all that. So I go to the bathroom, put the light, and the bathtub was all full of dead bees. I said, what is this? I see on top of the bathtub a little hole. And through this little hole, a bee came over and dropped dead into the bathtub. And after watching for a little bit, I see that, well, some of them, they died, you see, and some of them, they flew. And they flew immediately around the light. And I said, oh, brother, what I want to do here? So I said, no, if they're coming through this little hole, what I'm going to do is close it. So I took a piece of cardboard, one of my drawing cardboards. I put it all full of glue. I stand in the bathtub, and I say, oh, you bees, you are going to be there inside forever. Bango! Whereupon the whole world collapsed. And hundreds of bees, they fly inside and they start to pick me up. And in a horrifying panic, and persecuted by these bees, I flew out of the house. I don't know how I did. Zumba! I go out and I was so sad. I'm feeling them, going like this. And I jump in the car and drive to Fletcher Martin's house. Well, I scared the wits out of them because when I arrived, they say I was completely green. And I told them what happened, and my hands, they were just inflated with all this, and my head and all that. They called the doctor to get me a medicine. And then in the morning, it was about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. In the morning, I called Tom Penning. I said, listen, friend, your beautiful house, that paradise that I got from you in the woods, is haunted by bees that almost killed me last night. I said, oh, well, he was not very impressed about it. And I said, oh, yes, maybe the queen bee, one of the king bees, I think she did some years ago. One of my queen bees, and maybe they built there some, I want to see what it's all about. So he called in about 20 minutes to call back and said, Julio, you want to see something? Come over. We are going to get the king bee, and you will see all the bees flying back to the. He had what do you call? Beehives. So we all drove down, Fletcher and everybody, to see how this queen bee was going to be transported to the hives. And when we got there, this man covered with a hat and something covering his face, and gloves and a long blouse, went to the wall. Now this time was from the outside. They have taken all this thing from the outside, and he started to look, and he found the queen bee, and he took the queen bee carefully, and immediately all the bees, they flew on him. His hat, he was completely covered with bees. And he walked to the hive, which was just about quite a walk, and all the bees followed him. And he got there and put the queen bee in one of the hives, and all the bees flew away from him right to the hive. Then we went back to my house, and there in that wall, there were 100 pounds or more of honey. More than 100 pounds, a couple of 100 or 300 pounds of honey that they had built in a period of time inside of the wall. And everything had to be ripped up, collect the honey, and then rebuild it, of course. But that time, all that paradise, they was converted into inferno for me. I moved out of the place, and I found another place in East Hampton. That was my first experience about renting a place in Woodstock, and it was not very pleasant. But I still loved the mountains and the trees and the rest of the thing.
So after that terrible experience, why did you?
I didn't. Through Gottlieb, I met this branch, because was, and then through him, not just at the Maverick, but at the other side, the other mountain, Peter Whitehead. So I met kind of the founders of Woodstock Colony, which it was more in the direction of the crafts than in the direction of the arts. At least that's the impression that I got. But through some of the artists that I met, I saw the potentials of the retreat, from the city, and the idea to spend the summer around a milieu, a group of people that they had the same sympathetic attitude toward life and the way of one's living. That's what I keep on coming here in the summer.
What about Herbie White? Do you remember him?
Oh, yes. The same thing. He had, there was kind of a pattern created by all these people, which pattern somehow changed after the war. when other artists from the Middle West and from other places start to move in, and it became more alive. It's very much similar, the attitude after the war, very similar to what happened now. You know, that other subcultures have moved into Woodstock. And that's what happened after the Second World War.
You said something about knowing Alfio Facci.
I knew him in Chicago.
Tell me about it.
You know what you're going to tell about an artist that you like? Because there's very little to say except few funny or interesting things, except that I admire him very much as an artist and his dedication, regardless of his style or how he approached art, etc. But his dedication was the important thing. And I have always admired dedicated people to his own profession, you see, and try to do, not just to do things, but to do them well. And that was what I can tell you, not just about Facci, but about all the artists that I have been in touch with during my life.
Well, do you say there was a Woodstock School of Art?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It's just like say that everybody that do kind of an abstract approach to art, like you can see in this exhibition that they have now at the Art Association, under 30 they call it, comparing that with the exhibition that they had just a little before over 70, which I think is just completely ridiculous to have this exhibition by ages, you see. Now, during this exhibition above 70, you could see that there was just as much as experimentation is there now among people below 30. And of course there are some big paintings now, kind of an abstract, and you can say, well, this is Woodstock School of Abstract. It's not. What happened is that then there was kind of a trend, like now there's one of a trend, and among these you can find few individuals that they don't follow that trend, but they develop kind of a individual experimentation. And then and now exists the same thing among few individuals.
Well, you've been painting for how many years now?
Since I was 15 years old, and I am 71 now.
And I guess in all that time, you've kind of been able to get an objective view of what you've been doing as an artist. Could you kind of tell us what your conception of your paintings and your craft?
Well, I say before, and I will repeat that to be a craftsman, to be an artist, I couldn't be anything else but that. See, and my leitmotif in life has been not to do things, but to do them well. Now, I have not, and I do not belong to any school. However, I've been accepted, I've been claimed by the abstract expressionists